Welcome back to Definitely Not Definitive. I'm Ken.
And I'm Bethany.
And we're just a couple of, Welcome back to Definitely Not Definitive. I'm Ken.
And I'm Bethany.
And we're just a couple of overly enthusiastic couple in love. We're just a couple of overly enthusiastic. Okay, let me try this again. Let me do this again. Got it again. You ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Welcome back to Definitely Not Definitive. I'm Ken.
And I'm Bethany.
And we're just an overly enthusiastic couple in love that loves reacting to some Overwatch.
Overly enthusiastic. If there were ever adjectives to just, wow. I can't talk now.
It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. You know what? I stumbled a bunch beforehand, and but now Bethany is. I can't believe you stumbled. I never stumble over my words.
Because he's going to edit out his stumbling and leave mine in. That's what's happening right now. What I was going to say is that if there were ever two adjectives to describe us, it's overly enthusiastic.
There you go. There you go. You got through it. Finally. So, we've been watching a lot of Overwatch, and but it's been a little bit since we've actually done some Overwatch. But we've done all the origin stories, we've done all the gameplay trailers, we've done all the Overwatch shorts as well. So now we're getting into the history and lore of Overwatch. We like some good lore. Yeah. So looking forward to that. And if you want all of our Overwatch reactions, you can go ahead and check out the description of this video and go on our little Overwatch journey with us. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
At some point many years from now, Earth was enjoying an age of peace and prosperity. It was a golden age of technology. There was even a science facility called the Horizon Lunar Base that was constructed on the moon by the company Liu Chang Interstellar. However, the most stunning breakthrough was the advent of advanced robotics with highly complex artificial intelligence. These advanced robots were, of course, the Omnics. The creation of Omnics boosted the world's prosperity and economy through manufacturing as the use of Omnics became widespread all over the world. The Omnics were built in large factories called Omniums, created by the Omnica Corporation, and they were found in all the major metropolitan areas on the planet. In order to better understand the creation of the Omnics, we have to explore one Dr. Mina Liao. Before she became one of the legendary founding members of Overwatch, Dr. Liao was one of the top experts in the world of robotics and developing artificial intelligence. Dr. Liao moved forth with development of the Omnics with good intentions. She wanted to help make the world a better place. She had no idea the terror her creation would wreak upon the world.
What do they say about good intentions?
The exact point in the imagined future of Overwatch that the Omnic Crisis happens is unknown, but it's approximately 2050 or 30 years from now. At some point, the Omnica Corporation was exposed for fraud. The corporation and its Omniums were shut down. However, after the shutdown of the Omniums, the factories were reactivated with a new purpose: mankind's destruction. And because Omniums were built all over the world in major cities, the entire planet was at risk. What is known about the Omniums is that they were built with automated construction machinery and self-improving software algorithms. The Omniums started creating legions of Bastion robots as their standard military units. Omnics could also hijack existing technology, such as large military Titan walkers. Reporter Olympia Shaw labeled the Omnic Crisis as one of the greatest threats to the survival of our species since the Cold War of the 20th century. But she was wrong. Unlike the Cold War, battles were waged during the Omnic Crisis, and many innocent people died. Different countries responded to the Omnic Crisis in different ways. Russia produced large human-piloted mechs called the Spyatogors to fight the Omnics. The United States initiated a soldier enhancement program, a classified program that sought to shape soldiers into perfect specimens with enhanced superhuman speed, strength, and agility.
Captain America.
The JO-8 produced what was known as the Crusader Armor. A modern-day order of knights formed the Crusaders to protect Germany on the front lines. However, no individual group was able to successfully defeat the Omnic threat. World governments were failing to effectively combat the Omnic threat, and as a result, the United Nations sought to form an international task force made up of elite soldiers. Soldiers who showed remarkable ingenuity and acclamation to the new type of warfare wrought by the Omnics. Soldiers like Jack Morrison and Gabriel Reyes. 2 Americans from the classified soldier enhancement program. Others included Ana Amari, an elite sniper and marksman from Egypt, Torbjorn Lindholm, a brilliant engineer and weapons designer from Sweden, and also the Singaporean scientist who helped develop the Omnics, Dr. Mina Liao. Jack Morrison was the one who personally invited Dr. Mina Liao to join the team. She was taken aback by the offer, not understanding why she should be someone to join Overwatch, considering how she helped create the Omnics in the first place. But Morrison responded, who better to help us fight them? As a part of Overwatch, Dr. Liao would now put her scientific expertise to good use to stop her mechanical creations. There was also a sixth member invited to join the team, one Baldric von Adler of Germany. Von Adler was a member of the elite Crusader Knights, who were stationed at Eichenwald to push back invading Omnic forces. During the Omnic attack, however, von Adler was critically injured. Though the Crusaders and German military were able to eventually push back the Omnic offensive, Baldric von Adler succumbed to his injuries. But prior to his death, von Adler offered his Medal of Invitation for Overwatch to fellow Crusader Reinhard Wilhelm. Reinhard would join Overwatch in von Adler's stead, becoming Overwatch's sixth and final founding member. With Los Angeles-born Gabriel Reyes picked as the original team leader, Overwatch was born. Overwatch became the light humanity needed in its darkest hour, conducting highly classified missions and raids that managed to surgically take out Omnic's central command and protocols. Omnic armies became inoperable. Most of the Bastion combat units were destroyed. For the surviving Omnics, humanity was able to forge a peace treaty. The Omnic Crisis had finally come to an end. However, while the victory was won for humanity, the toll and sacrifice on the world was great. The world was forever changed and heavily scarred by the Omnic Crisis. A financial crisis in the war's aftermath was only the tip of the iceberg. The Australian government attempted to forge a peace with the Omnics following the war, granting them land in Central Australia and even the country's Omnium. But this infuriated a number of residents of the Australian outback, who formed an insurrection group called the Australian Liberation Front. This group spearheaded an effort to destroy Australia's Omnium. A sabotage operation of the Omnium's fusion core caused a massive explosion. As a result, the region became an irradiated wasteland of rubble and wreckage. Countries and cities such as Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, suffered heavy bombardment during the Omnic Crisis. Rio went through massive economic upheaval. Though India's population was greatly displaced as a result of the Omnic Crisis, it also gave rise to the Vishkar Corporation, a company specializing in hard light architecture, a technology that allows the creation of solid matter from light sources. The Vishkar Corporation used this technology to build a new cultural and metropolitan center in India called Utopia to house the country's displaced populace. In Mexico, most of the country's infrastructure and power grid were shattered. The Omnic Crisis created a period of literal darkness that the local population referred to as La Medianoche, which translates to the midnight. Many children were orphaned as a result of the war, including future hacker and Talon operative Olivia Colomar, aka Sombra. Another corporation given prominence due to the Omnic Crisis was Lumerico, which built a new network of power plants to replace Mexico's infrastructure and provide clean, affordable energy. During the Omnic Crisis, Russia actually managed to defeat many Omnics on its own. The Siberian Omnium was shut down, however the surrounding region and much of Russia was left severely devastated as a result. One young child forced to endure growing up through the devastation of post-war Siberia was Alexandra Zaryanova, who would later become the elite Russian soldier known as Zarya. While the country was devastated by the war, Russia managed to exploit a revamped mechanized labor industry. The corporation that benefited the most from the rebuilding process was Volskaya Industries. While the war was won thanks to Overwatch, the group became far from obsolete. In fact, Overwatch ushered in a new age, a better age, the Age of Heroes.
Yeah!
It's not gonna last.
Yeah, it never does.
And thus, humanity finally entered its new dawn that was spearheaded by Overwatch. After winning the war, Overwatch became the group at the forefront of maintaining the world's peace and stability. It was a new age of heroes. Terrorists, rogue omnics, and dictators were no match for Overwatch. Overwatch even oversaw rescue operations and rebuilding initiatives for natural disasters. For decades, Overwatch prospered thanks to new members such as the brilliant medical operative Dr. Angela Ziegler, who became Overwatch's head of medical research. This new dawn of humanity was an age of heroism, peace, prosperity, and exploration. The positive wave in society for Overwatch was so strong that those born in this age were dubbed the Overwatch generation. One such child who was born was Fariha Amari, the daughter of one of Overwatch's founders, Ana Amari. While Gabriel Reyes was the Overwatch Task Force's de facto leader during the Omnic Crisis, the UN declared Jack Morrison as the first official commander of the new Overwatch. Despite Reyes being a more experienced senior officer, Morrison was named leader due to his supposed penchant for bringing out the best in those around him. It was during the Omnic Crisis that Morrison ultimately helped mold the eclectic group into an elite, diverse unit and a cohesive fighting force. However, the passing over of Reyes as commander was the catalyst of a permanent rift between Morrison and Reyes that would create ripples into the future. After joining Overwatch, Reinhardt and weapons engineer Torbjorn Lindholm formed a close friendship. However, the friendship would soon be given a baptism by fire. Close to 24 years before the present time of Overwatch, the Overwatch Strike team took part in a mission called Operation White Dome. The mission was headed up by Captain Ana Amari. Ana and her team, consisting of Torbjorn, Reinhardt, and a private first-class Emre Sarayoglu, were deployed to the outskirts of Istanbul for a routine insertion. The team was ambushed by hostile Omnic forces. All the Omnics were subdued in the firefight, but both Reinhardt and Torbjorn were injured. Reinhardt did save Torbjorn's life, but Torbjorn lost one of his arms and an eye during the fight. As an expression of gratitude, Torbjorn insisted that Reinhardt not only become the godfather of his firstborn daughter, but also choose her name. Reinhardt agreed, naming the girl Brigitte.
Aww. I realize that's how it came to be.
Overwatch grew in power and influence in the ensuing years under Morrison's leadership. The organization grew beyond paramilitary and global peacekeeping efforts, sparking innovations into fields of science, engineering, space exploration, and medicine. Meanwhile, Reyes was granted leadership of a covert ops division for Overwatch. This covert ops unit was called Blackwatch. The aftermath of the Omnic Crisis saw the rise of a group of outlaws known as the Deadlock Gang. The group was founded by 4 outlaws. Among them were Elizabeth Caledonia Calamity Ash and another local ruffian by the name of Jesse McCree. Together, the group of outlaws made a name for themselves in the criminal underworld. Their actions even put them at odds with criminal groups throughout the American Southwest. Eventually, the activities of the Deadlock Gang gained the attention of Overwatch. McCree was taking part in illicit weapons and military hardware deals when Gabriel Reyes and Blackwatch led a sting to thwart Deadlock. At this point, McCree was given an ultimatum: join Blackwatch or go to prison. McCree chose the former, thus Gabriel Reyes took the young outlaw under his wing and became a mentor for him under the Blackwatch banner. And so the ranks of Blackwatch grew, with Jesse McCree joining the team. Another member of Blackwatch was Genji Shimada of the Shimada crime family in Japan. Genji came from a long line of Japanese gangsters, but he was not interested in a life of crime. This led to conflict and an eventual fight with Genji's older brother Hanzo Shimada, who was tasked with eliminating his brother by the dissenting Shimada council members. Following the fight, Hanzo believed that he killed his brother Genji, but the shame of the act got the better of Hanzo. Of his own free will, Hanzo left the life of the Shimada clan behind, and miraculously, Genji also survived. With the help of Dr. Angela Ziegler, aka Mercy, Genji's body was transformed into a cyborg, and he joined Blackwatch under Gabriel Reyes' leadership. In the years following the Omnic Crisis, there was a great change throughout the world. As mentioned previously, the Vishkar Corporation in India developed the radical technology called Hardlight. One of the emerging architects and scientists of Hardlight was Satya Vaswani, who became one of the lead architects for the Hardlight city utopia. Vaswani was later dubbed Symmetra, and she sought to help spread the Vishkar Corporation influence across the globe. However, the emergence of these mega corporations wasn't all peaches and cream for the rest of the world. There wasn't much improvement for Central Australia after the destruction of the Omnium. In this blighted wasteland of what remained of the Outback, the survivors called themselves Junkers. The Junkers formed a barbarous cutthroat society. It was from this cutthroat society where the infamous criminal Jameson Fox, aka Junkrat, was born and raised. About 20 years before the current time of Overwatch, South Korea developed a new type of mechanized armor drone unit called Mecha, which were built to protect cities from a colossal Omnic robot that would wreak havoc across the country after emerging from the East China Sea. The conflict would constantly end in stalemates with the robot every few years. After a time, the government sought to recruit professional gamers to pilot the mecha suits to battle the colossal Omnic. One such candidate was Hannah Song, aka Diva. Diva became an excellent mecha pilot, thanks in part to her excellent skills as a championship gamer. A number of years after the Omnic Crisis, Overwatch would continue to bring on new members, including Winston the Gorilla. The Horizon Lunar Colony took part in an experimental project on genetically enhanced gorillas, and at least one hamster. This was primarily to test the effect
Wrecking
of
ball,
prolonged
a
stays
hamster.
in outer space. There were at least 28 gorilla subjects for the experiment, and subject number 28 was future Overwatch member Winston. Unfortunately for the scientists at the Horizon Lunar Base, some of the gorillas began growing adverse reactions to the gene therapy. A few of the gorillas were even becoming known troublemakers, injuring some of the base's staff. Eventually, some of the test subjects started a gorilla uprising. The gorillas tricked the scientists into checking the malfunction in the airlock on the
Always
base.
a robot
As a result,
uprising
the
and a
scientists were
gorilla
all jettisoned outside the base and into the vacuum of space. Victorious, the gorillas decided to stay at the base and take over. Specimen 28, Winston, however, decided to escape. Winston fashioned his own rocket to escape from Horizon, and Specimen 8, Hammond, the hamster, also engineered his own escape pod that he managed to attach to Winston's rocket with a tether. The two managed to get the heck out of Dodge. However, Hammond's pod was lost over the Australian outback. He traveled to Junkertown, modified his escape pod into a walking mecha suit, and became a famous gladiator of Junkertown's scrapyard. To keep his identity a secret, he gave himself the moniker Wrecking Ball. As for Winston, his pod eventually led him to being found by Overwatch and joining the team. To this day, it's believed that Horizon's monitoring systems are still up and running, but there is no direct communication with the facility. The existence of Overwatch also gave rise to a clandestine terrorist organization known as Talon. Talon is an organization that seeks to make humanity and the world stronger through conflict. For years, Overwatch waged many operations against Talon, most of which were spearheaded by the valiant Gerard Lacroix. However, after multiple failed attempts to eliminate Lacroix, Talon sought a more subtle method, and so they kidnapped Gerard's wife, Amélie Lacroix. After kidnapping her, they proceeded to brainwash her, and it was through this manipulation that they managed to get her to murder Gerard, her husband, in his sleep. Thus, Widowmaker was born. Another noteworthy Talon member was Akinjide Adeyemi. Adeyemi, the Scourge of Numbani, was a war profiteer operating within the Talon organization, carrying out raids on Numbani. Adeyemi recruited a disillusioned Nigerian boy called Akande Ogundimu, brought him into Talon, and trained him to become a mercenary. In Ogundimu, the inner circle of Talon saw the potential of a great future leader. In return, Ogundimu found great admiration in Talon's philosophies of creating a stronger world through conflict. As a result, the student had no other choice but to kill his mentor. Ogundimu murdered Doomfist the Scourge, and he took Adeyemi's gauntlet. And with that, Akande Ogundimu became the third Doomfist. For years, Overwatch kept the peace, but peace is always challenged. Organizations such as Talon sought to test Overwatch's strength. Unfortunately for Overwatch, it seemed the greatest weakness would come from within. About 8 years before the current events of Overwatch, Talon started growing more aggressive by attacking Overwatch bases. After an attack on an Overwatch facility in Oslo, Blackwatch agents Reyes and McCree went to convene with agent Gerard Lacroix to gather intel at a Blackwatch base in Rome, Italy. After Lacroix revealed Talon agent Antonio Bartolotti as the mastermind behind the attacks, the base was bombed. Gerard Lacroix was injured, and many other agents killed. Grieving at the loss of fellow Overwatch agents, Reyes convinced Overwatch Strike Commander Morrison to unofficially sanction a Blackwatch mission to go to Venice to infiltrate a Talon hideout and capture Bartolotti. This mission had to be off the books, because Bartolotti had deep political ties and a front as a legitimate businessman. A Blackwatch team consisting of Reyes, Genji, McCree, and Moira infiltrated Bartolotti's base, but things went wrong. Very wrong. Instead of capturing Bartolotti, Reyes opted to kill him in cold blood, much to the chagrin of McCree. The Blackwatch team had to fight off hordes of Talon agents in order to escape from Venice alive. The death of Bartolotti spurred replacements in the ranks of Talon in the form of the Omnic Maximilian and the third Doomfist, Akande Ogundimu. The Venice incident was a disaster for Overwatch. Because of the activity, the existence of Blackwatch was revealed to the world, called Overwatch's legitimacy into question. It would eventually snowball into Overwatch's implosion and dissolution, and what happened in Venice never sat well with McCree. One of the newer recruits to Overwatch after Retribution was the former test pilot Lena Oxton, aka Tracer. Oxton was a part of Overwatch's experimental aircraft flight test division. During a test flight for a new aircraft that could teleport called the Slipstream, the aircraft malfunctioned and disappeared. Tracer was presumed dead. However, months later, she reappeared, suffering from a type of phenomenon called chronal disassociation. With this chronal disassociation, Tracer's form could not stay anchored to the present time. Luckily, the guerrilla scientist, Winston, helped Tracer by designing a chronal accelerator device, allowing her to stay anchored to the present and granting her control over her chronal disassociation. This experience allowed Winston and Tracer to form a close bond of friendship with each other. Some 23 years after the Omnic Crisis, the extremist Omnic terrorist group Null sector incited the conflict called the King's Row Uprising in London. London became a battleground. Hundreds were taken prisoner, including Mayor Nanda, the Omnic Shambali monk Madada, and many others. Overwatch was forbidden from taking action. However, with assistance from Blackwatch agent Jesse McCree, the area was scouted. Jack Morrison sent out 4 agents: Reinhardt, Mercy, Torbjorn, and the newest cadet, Tracer. Together, this group managed to end the King's Row Uprising. During the time of Overwatch's height, Talon Inner Council member Maximilian was out in the open in Havana, Cuba. With the Canadian hero Sojourn watching over the mission, Tracer led a strike team including Mercy, Winston, and Genji to track and capture Maximilian. Eventually, the strike team is able to block Maximilian's escape and capture him. Maximilian agrees to negotiate, but Mercy wants a specific introduction. Meanwhile, at the same time, Doomfist of Talon is addressing a mysterious, still unknown Omnic who could be a part of Null Sector. His identity and allegiances are still unclear to us to this day. Maximilian reveals that Doomfist will be in Singapore in 3 weeks' time. Winston, Genji, and Tracer then confront Doomfist, however they are no match for him. Eventually, Doomfist gets a hold of Tracer's chronal accelerator and smashes it to pieces. Winston, seeing his friend in danger, gets filled with rage and manages to punch Doomfist, capture him, and sends him to a Helix security prison where he would be locked away for a long time. While Overwatch was highly revered, the group had plenty of critics. As time rolled on, rumors of Overwatch's activities seeped out to the public eye. This included rumors about the Black Ops division Blackwatch. There were accusations against Blackwatch regarding claims of corruption, not to mention alleged acts of kidnapping, torture, assassination, coercion, and gun running. It got to a point where these claims could not be dismissed as mere paranoid delusions any longer. Many of Overwatch's most famous and revered agents were forced to retire in disgrace as a result of these accusations. Ultimately, Overwatch's Blackwatch division was revealed to the public. As stories of Blackwatch's corruption were becoming more commonplace, public outrage against Overwatch was a powder keg that was waiting to go off. World governments started demanding that Overwatch be shut down. However, independent events ultimately conspired to destroy Overwatch from within. Meanwhile, in Brazil, the Vishkar Corporation apparently sought to help Rio de Janeiro rebuild after the Omnic Crisis, but the resulting efforts led to harsh restrictions and abuse of Brazilian citizens as cheap labor. Local Brazilian DJ Lucio Correia dos Santos was not happy with the treatment of his hometown and neighbors. He incited a rebellion against the Vishkar Corporation, chasing the entity out of his hometown after stealing the corporation's own technology. Regarding the fate of Overwatch, not much is known about what happened, but a cataclysmic event took place at the Overwatch headquarters in Switzerland. What was labeled as an accident in the public was actually a massive battle. It was a battle between two sides. On one side was Overwatch Strike Commander Jack Morrison. On the other, Blackwatch Commander Gabriel Reyes. The rift between Morrison and Reyes had been growing for decades. Whether it was Morrison being picked as the commander for Overwatch or the temptation of power, Reyes had grown corrupt. He sought to lead a rebellion against Morrison at the Swiss headquarters. The battle between both sides led to a massive explosion and the ultimate destruction of the Swiss HQ. This incident signaled the end of Overwatch. What became of Morrison and Reyes? They were believed to have perished in the explosion. However, neither of their bodies were ever found. It was the end of an era. In a flash, all that Overwatch had built was lost. The transgressions of Blackwatch were unveiled, and the United Nations did what they felt had to be done. They dissolved Overwatch, and just like that, the Age of Heroes had come to an end. It was a sad end to a once shining beacon of light for humanity. Arguably, Overwatch became the very thing the organization had fought against numerous times, an agent of chaos. With the disbanding of Overwatch, the Petrus Act was signed into law. The Petrus Act declared any Overwatch activity illegal and punishable by law. Meanwhile, Morrison was memorialized in his home state of Indiana, and his teammates mourned his apparent passing. While the world enjoyed a period of untold peace and prosperity, with Overwatch gone, the floodgates were open. There was no longer a check against the criminal scum who sought to destabilize the world. Despite a wave of support for Omnic civil rights that had previously gained a great deal of traction, tensions between humans and Omnics grew yet again. The corporations that benefited from the aftermath of the Omnic Crisis had grown bloated with power. Many corporations, such as Vishkar, had been engaging in rather unsavory activities to grow their political influences. Previously,
Not surprising.
Symmetra actually took part in espionage activities against the corporation Colado, of which Vishkar was competing to take control of the redevelopment in Rio de Janeiro. This led to Vishkar destroying a Colado building and causing extreme damage to a local slum. Katya Volskaya, the CEO of Russia's Volskaya Industries, had also been double-dealing under the table with unknown Omnics, something very taboo to the Russian government. With Overwatch's dissolution, Talon was given free rein to operate unchecked. Another event that increased human and Omnic tensions was the assassination of the Omnic civil rights leader and monk Takartha Mandata. Mandata was a member of the righteous Omnic order called the Shambali. The Shambali order was formed after the Omnic Crisis, and it sought equality between humans and Omnics, and intended to heal the wounds caused by the war. While many started accepting the Shambali's teachings and beliefs, the Shambali leader Mandata was eventually assassinated by the one and only Widowmaker, despite a valiant attempt by Tracer to stop her. A few years after the dissolution of Overwatch, a second Omnic Crisis began in Russia. At the start of the present time of Overwatch, the second Omnic Crisis is still ongoing and has already claimed the lives of 15,000 citizens, but is isolated to the Siberian Omnium, and the international community is reluctant to step in. Needless to say, the world is once again on the verge of annihilation, but much like before, when the world was in its darkest hour, it was not a world without hope. The age of heroes may have been over, but heroes never die. Masked Vigilante emerged, foiling bank heists, but also stealing technology from Helix Security and old Overwatch facilities. This vigilante was none other than Soldier 76, the long-believed dead Jack Morrison. Gabriel Reyes had also survived, albeit likely badly burned or deformed. Something had happened to his physiology, causing his cells to experience constant degeneration and regeneration, granting him inhuman powers and turning him from Gabriel Reyes into Reaper. Talon has recently been escalating its activities. The CG short Recall depicted an attempt by the terrorist organization to steal a list of deactivated Overwatch agents from the Watchpoint Gibraltar base. Reaper led this operation, but was thwarted by former Overwatch member Winston. After his computer system AI, Athena, quarantined Reaper's computer virus, Athena's systems rebooted, lighting up the option to initiate the Overwatch recall. And with the punch of a key, the Overwatch recall was officially initiated, recalling many deactivated agents back to the field, and Winston re-established contact with Tracer. This action initiated the events of the main game of Overwatch. Meanwhile, in Antarctica, Dr. Mei Ling Cho woke from a 10-year-long cryostasis. Mei was assigned to a climate monitoring station to study Earth's escalating climate phenomena after the Omnic Crisis. Unfortunately, a polar storm struck the facility, and the scientists were left stranded. Mei and her research team entered cryostasis in the hopes of survival before a rescue crew would eventually arrive. Tragically, the scientists did not survive their cryostasis, with Mei being the sole survivor. After she awoke from her cryosleep and mourning her fellow scientists, Mei re-established the communications in Eagle Point, Antarctica, allowing her to receive the recall message left by Winston, and she prepared for a long journey out of Eagle Point's base. Winston and Tracer's exploits continued as they thwarted Reaper and Widowmaker's attempt to steal the Doomfist gauntlet, which was housed in a museum in Numbani. Reaper also came masked to face with Soldier 76 during a confrontation in Egypt. The Talon associate Hakim was trying to set a trap for Soldier 76, but instead, 76 made a counterattack on Hakim's compound. During the battle, Reaper appeared and attacked Soldier. Both men revealed their identities, and just when Jack was about to be killed by Reaper, he was saved from certain death by Jack Morrison's former second-in-command, Anna Amari. Anna, much like Jack Morrison, had faked her own death after she was wounded in battle by Widowmaker and lost her eye. Anna still managed to briefly incapacitate Reaper and remove his mask. Whatever Anna saw caused her to freeze in shock at what remained of her former friend and comrade, Gabriel Reyes. Reaper managed to get free and escape, warning Anna about what had been done to him, spurring her and Jack to reunite with a common purpose: stop Reaper and Talon. Coincidentally, Angela Ziegler, aka Mercy, was doing medical aid work in Egypt. In his conversations with Mercy, 76 reveals he's seeking the truth of what happened to Overwatch. Soldier 76 is well aware of Winston's recall message, but he seems to have no interest in joining Winston. He said,
"Let Winston play hero. I'll do what needs to be done."
Mercy warns Soldier 76 that his personal revenge won't change anything, but Soldier 76 stubbornly believes in his brand of justice. In the meantime,
he's got an ego.
Sweden recruited Dr. Sibrin de Kuiper. Dr. Kuiper's life changed forever a few years prior when a gravity experiment aboard the ISS went sideways. The accident left Dr. Kuiper permanently insane and gave him the ability to control gravity. He was deemed unsafe and called Subject Sigma. Now with Talon, Sigma seems to continue his research, which Talon wants to use to further their agenda. Sigma wants to uncover the secrets of the universe. However, it's believed that he's not aware that Talon is manipulating him to their own ends. In the meantime, Akande Ogundimu managed to escape from his confinement in prison. Even without his gauntlet, he was somehow able to punch his way out of his holding cell and killed more than a dozen guards. Talon assisted in his escape by bypassing the security systems where Doomfist was held. After his escape, Doomfist took a trip to Monaco to meet with another high-ranking Talon member, Maximilian. Maximilian affirmed his loyalty within Talon toward Doomfist, but advised Doomfist that others were moving against him. In Venice, Italy, Doomfist took out Viali, one of the high-ranking Talon members who opposed him. He and Reaper then sat in for another inner council meeting, and Doomfist announced his desire to start a war. Sometime after that, Doomfist went to Numbani to retrieve his gauntlet, where it was being transported to the Heritage Museum for a Doomfist exhibit for a Unity Day celebration in Numbani. Doomfist easily crushed OR-15 defense robots that were guarding the gauntlet. With his gauntlet back in his possession, Doomfist returned to Talon and his seat on the organization's inner council. This incident sparked the imagination of a young inventor from Numbani. After the assault on Numbani from Doomfist, Ifi Oladelli purchased OR-15 spare parts with funds from the Genius Grant awarded by the Adawe Foundation of Numbani. The parts were used to build Orisa, an upgraded and advanced OR-15 with the added touch of personality. Ifi sought to create a robot that would act as the hero Numbani needed and fulfill the initial well-meant intentions of the OR-15, and thus Orisa became the true guardian of Numbani. In the current time of Overwatch, the second Omnic Crisis is in full swing. Talon is increasing its global efforts of destabilization and plunging the world into conflict. With Doomfist free, he seeks to take revenge on Overwatch for sending him to prison. Talon's plans to achieve strength in the world through conflict sound incredibly ominous. Thanks to Winston's recall effort, heroes are coming into the fray to stand against Talon, Reaper, Doomfist, and Widowmaker. One of Talon's newest operatives is the master hacker Sombra. Sombra is well aware of the underhanded, shady activities of Volskaya Industries CEO Katya Volskaya. During an assassination mission, Sombra acted against Talon and opted to blackmail Volskaya with the information that Katya was trading secrets with the Omnics. In retaliation, Katya Volskaya activated the Russian soldier Zarya to presumably strike back against Sombra. Meanwhile, in the forests of Germany, a Bastion unit reawakened. In fact, the Bastion unit reawakened, the very last surviving Bastion unit. After seeing the aftermath of the Omnic Crisis destruction, the reactivated Bastion befriended a little bird called Ganymede and moved towards Sweden. Though the Swedish authorities seek to put a stop to Bastion, which has not yet made a move to attack any humans, former Overwatch member Torbjorn Lindholm volunteered to destroy it. However, Torbjorn noticed this Bastion's behavior was different. Seeing this new Bastion unit as peaceful, Torbjorn protected Bastion and Ganymede from the police, and the two traveled out of the forest together. Okay. Elsewhere, after leaving Overwatch, Genji managed to receive help from the Omnic monk and member of the Shambali Order, Zenyatta. Genji was not adjusting well to his cyborg transformation, and Zenyatta assisted Genji in finding balance and peace in his heart. With his newfound outlook on life, Genji confronted his tormented brother Hanzo when Hanzo infiltrated the Shimada facility. It was part of Hanzo's yearly ritual to pay respect to the brother Hanzo had believed he killed. The cyborg ninja forgave Hanzo and encouraged him to leave his life of crime behind and step into the light. Will Hanzo decide to join Overwatch? His decision is unknown, but there is always hope. After the fall of Overwatch, Reinhard Wilhelm declared that he would come out of retirement and become a knight errant to bring justice to a world that that no longer had Overwatch to protect it. Brigitte, with her father's blessing, joined Reinhardt on this mission and became his squire. For a time, Brigitte traveled alongside Reinhardt and would tend to his physical wounds and maintain his armor. After the events of Reinhardt's taking out the Dragon Gang and answering Winston's recall order, Brigitte could no longer sit on the sidelines. She finished work on her own set of armor with some help from her father. Brigitte Lindholm became a hero in her own right to fight at the side of Reinhardt and her friends to protect them and others in need to make the world a better place.
Yeah, Brigitte.
The ex-Talon operative Jean-Baptiste Augustin became aware of Winston's recall message after trying to take out Vernon Sinclair, a pharmaceuticals magnate in Port-au-Paix, with the help of 2 other Talon agents. The recall message gave him a renewed sense of hope. Seeing that Dr. Angela Ziegler was on Sinclair's stolen Overwatch data, he decided to pay a visit to Mercy to warn her. But first, he contacted his old friend at Talon, the master hacker Sombra. Some years after Overwatch was abandoned, there was an attempt to transport Echo to a secure government facility. But that all went sideways when the train was hijacked by the notorious Deadlock Gang and led to a showdown on Route 66, of all places. Despite the previous Blackwatch sting operation to take down McCree and the Deadlock Gang some years back, the group was able to resume or maintain its activities under Ash's leadership. At the time of the heist, one Jesse McCree was waiting in the Route 66 diner and serving himself a nice slice of delicious apple pie when the Deadlock Gang struck. He was aware of the heist, and some of the payload was of great interest to him. McCree confronted Ash and the Deadlock Gang, Bob included. McCree offered that the Deadlock Gang take the rest of the cargo, save for one mysterious glowing white spherical object. After Ash opened the mysterious container and saw what was inside, she wanted to keep the cargo for herself. A furious gun battle broke out, but McCree got the better of his former compadres. He tied up Ash and her Deadlock minions and the remains of Bob on a mobile platform and sent them on their way. After that, he unlocked the container holding Echo, who had apparently been in storage for some time. Her exchange with McCree indicated he still had his left arm when they had last met. McCree informed Echo that Winston was reforming Overwatch, but he noted that while the team wants McCree, they in fact need Echo. After freeing Echo, McCree then left, noting that he had some business of his own to attend to, and the former outlaw rode off into the sunset on a hover bike. It appears that Echo has some knowledge and association with Winston because of her surprise when McCree referred to Winston as a monkey and not a scientist.
I wonder where McCree's gonna be going.
The circumstances are unknown how and why, but around the time that Winston sent out his recall message, the Omnic terrorist organization known as Null Sector began a coordinated attack on multiple points across the globe. One of those points was the capital city of France, Paris. With Paris in danger, it was time for Winston's strike team to act. Tracer flew their dropship into battle to protect civilians from Null Sector's attack. Tracer, May, and Winston fought valiantly, but then a Titan-class Omnic showed up that seemed to tip the scales of the battle.
Yeah, the
Winston
Transformer.
was ready to sacrifice himself to protect the civilians and his friends, but he was rescued by the arrival of several former Overwatch agents who heard his message and came to help. Genji, Echo, Mercy, Reinhardt, and Brigitte, all apparently
Genji was
showing
MVP.
up in the nick of time. These heroes had all heard Winston's call and were there to help. They were more than a match for the Titan unit and the remaining forces of Null Sector. Using teamwork, the team helped Tracer deliver a freeze bomb payload into the chassis of the Titan Omnic, which put it on ice for good. Quite literally. The battle was over and the heroes answered Winston's call. The question was simple.
Does this mean Overwatch is back?
You're damn right they are. With the worldwide Null Sector invasion spreading, Null Sector launched another attack on Lucio's hometown of Rio de Janeiro.
This time she's
Lucio
ready.
was there when the invasion began and set off on his own to protect his home. Luckily, Overwatch was also on the case, and the new strike team made its way to Rio to assist. Lucio quickly joined alongside Overwatch to help defend his city. Lucio took the team back to his home base and surmised that if they take out the Null Sector mothership, which is pumping out all the Omnic units, they can likely save the city. The strike team makes it aboard the Null Sector mothership and manages to overload the reactor. Our heroes make their daring escape just in the nick of time as the mothership gets blown into smithereens. So what's next? Overwatch is back together with a new ragtag group of heroes. While they won the fight in Paris, their war is far from over. We know from newly released information regarding Overwatch 2 that the conflict with Null Sector has spread all across the globe. Did Talon and Doomfist have something to do with this conflict? Considering Doomfist said he was ready to start a war before all this began, I think it's rather likely. There are many burning questions in Overwatch's history that are still unanswered, but the stage is set for Overwatch 2 and our new group of heroes.
All right, so some cool history and lore there. What'd you think?
I loved it. I love getting the backstory on everything. It just like when you meet characters or you see certain interactions, it's like a really cool puzzle piece, but you don't necessarily know how the puzzle all fits together.
Yeah.
So when you get the history and the lore, you suddenly start to learn how it all fits together. Like Brigitte's origin story, it had been alluded to, but this was the first time where like all of those dots for me were totally connected into exactly where she came from, how she came to be, why she was working with Reinhardt and whatnot. And it was a beautiful story, and arguably she could be one of my favorite heroes. I mean, she's literally doing this for all the right reasons.
Winston's still your favorite.
Oh, but yeah. I mean, hands down, it's Winston. But as far as like the people-looking people, she would probably be right up there. Again, we've been talking about in another one of our reactions how you know you're watching good content when it spurs ideas or questions that elevate the material beyond just the game.
Mm-hmm.
And with Brigitte's storyline, I couldn't help but think like, you know, when times are tough or things aren't going well, we all like wait around for the hero. I think it's kind of why video games are so popular right now, as well as superhero stories, all the DC movies, all the Marvel movies. It's because we all realize things aren't so great and we want a hero. But what I love about Brigitte's story is she was like, yeah, we need a hero. So damn it, I'm going to put on some armor and I'm going to be a hero.
Yeah.
And that's what we really need more than anything. It's like, no, you might not fly and you might, like Iron Man, you might not have a shield like Captain America, but like if you vote in your country in your elections, that's heroic. It's civic responsibility, but it's also heroic. If you help a little old lady cross a street, you know, that's dangerous for them. You are a hero to her. So like recognizing we all have the potential to be a hero to someone else, if not many others, if we just step into the role, is a good reminder.
Yeah, I like that. I like that reminder. Whenever you create a shadowy organization, it's just always going to end bad. Blackwatch, there was no need for that. Jack and Gabriel Reyes had their little split. And at first, it's like, okay, Gabriel, like, get over the fact that, like, Jack got picked over you. Like, I mean, maybe wasn't, like, the best. That, like, you know, he was chosen to be the poster boy or whatever. There's more at stake here. There's more important things. And it seemed like...
a better way of handling it.
Yeah, and it seemed like that's might be the reason that they created, like Blackwatch, was to kind of... like separate the two. So it's like, okay, well, you're not in charge of this, of Overwatch, but we're going to put you like, you know, where your talents really are. And you're going to be doing like the real stuff. And like, you know, it's still like playing to like ego. And then Soldier 76 now has the ego problem as well, because, you know, instead of helping out with Overwatch and Winston and like, you know, now letting Winston lead, letting someone else lead, it's like he can't be somebody that is a follower anymore. It's like he's got to do things his own way. Which I'm wondering if he's going to team up with McCree or if he's going to like maybe come to battle with McCree. And there's so much in here that I would just love like a full story and a full series about this.
Oh, I think you could easily do a TV series or even a movie, but I think you do it more justice in a TV series.
Yeah, agreed.
In the grand scheme of entertainment, usually like books are the densest and the richest. Then you have TV series, which can go on for several seasons, so they get to really explore all the material. And then you get the movies that are like, okay, we need 120 minutes of the highlights.
The abridged version,
yeah. Yeah, which is always the abridged version. So, I mean, I feel like for Overwatch, it would be great for a TV series.
Widowmaker's story is very sad.
Yeah.
I wish they kind of like had gone over it a little bit more. Hers, like, for being, I would think one of the favorite characters in Overwatch, they like kind of like just like briefly touched on her. I felt it was just like 5 sentences. Like, oh yeah, and like, you know, he was assassinated by his wife, and that ended up being Widowmaker, and like Widowmaker assassinated somebody else, and like, I don't know. I felt like they could have gone a little bit more into her character, but...
I feel like that, I mean, because in talking about this becoming a TV show, I feel like that would make a really great episode in a TV show, because it's so devastating that, yes, in this they could convey the horror of it in very few words, but I think to do her justice, giving her like her own episode in Overwatch TV series to really show you what crafted her, it's like, you know, in 5 sentences, yes, we get the impression of it. It's horrific, but you know, I think that's one that you can really make an audience feel, and you can like rip their heart out with it in like the best way that storytelling can do, because her story is devastating.
Let us know what you thought about this down below in the comments and more suggestions for different Overwatch videos to check out. Thanks so much for checking out our reaction for Overwatch, the history and lore. But just keep in mind
that our reaction is definitely not definitive.